Much for coming on the podcast today, and how is everything going?
Thanks for having me. It's been great.
Yeah, obviously you're a senior this year. You're just wrapping up your senior year. So how has your senior year been going for you, both on and off the field?
It's been great. I just graduated last week. I had my grad party last weekend, so it's been pretty busy, but it's been fun. It's kind of weird to think that I'm done with high school, both like in the classroom and on the field. But yeah, it's been fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, now you're officially a college student, so that must feel a little bit weird for yourself.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Well, let's talk about your senior year. So your team had a really good season. You made it all the way to the section semifinal against Benilde St. Margaret's. What did you take away from your team's performance this season and your individual performance as well?
Yeah, we had a really great season. We lost a lot of players from last year, so it was kind of like up in the air how we were going to do this year. But we had a lot of younger girls come up. We had like four eighth graders on the team this year, and one that like got all conference this year. So she was a big contributor. So that definitely helped us. And I think we really just came together as a team and made it pretty far. The past 3 years, we've made it to the section semifinal. So it was fun to get there again, even after losing some players. It was fun to have like a super close team this year. We were really close, which was awesome. I was face guarded a lot this year, but that was kind of like a fun challenge. I also broke my thumb the second game of the year, so I had to play with like a fun little splint on all year. But that was also like a fun challenge. I kind of got used to it. So yeah.
I like it. It brings out toughness, which is good. So I think you can learn a lot from that. Now, obviously, what was it like sort of being one of the older players in the team with four eighth graders? That must have taught you a lot about leadership, I would imagine.
Yeah, it was funny. They're very funny. It was fun to be like the way older one, like they're so much younger than me, but it was definitely kind of a lesson in leadership to welcome those really younger girls onto the team. But it was great. They kind of made themselves, a part of the team. Um, but yeah, it was super fun to have them.
Now, you describe yourself as a two-way midfielder. So I want to ask you about that. So just talk a little bit more about that and your game as a whole, and what do you hope to bring to college for next season?
Yeah, I love being a midfielder. It's so much fun. I love playing defense. Like a great stop on defense is like just as fun as a sweet goal on offense. And in terms of college next year, or I guess kind of this year, um, I really pride myself on like causing turnovers. Like I really love like checking people's sticks and stuff. That's kind of my favorite thing. So I hope to bring that to William Smith next year. Um, yeah, that's kind of my thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. One of my favorite plays from this past year in college lacrosse was Mackenzie Blake's college turnover that led to a goal against Florida. I'm not sure if you saw that highlight, but it was just
Yeah.
super cool seeing how
Yeah.
she got the turnover, created separation, created the dodge, and then scored the goal off that. And I feel like those are my favorite goal scoring
Yeah, me
highlights to
too.
see.
Me too.
Now,
Yeah,
what are
they're
some things you're going to be working on this summer before you arrive on campus this fall?
I think getting faster, I feel like you can never be like too fast or fast enough in this sport. So I think that's definitely something that I'm going to be working on um to get ready for college.
Nice. Any drills that you work on to increase your speed?
Well, I think just like sprinting stuff and maybe I think William Smith does like the Man U, so I'll definitely be doing that. And I have a trainer who will help me get in shape. So yeah.
Nice, that's awesome. Well, let's transition now and talk about sort of the beginning of your career and work all the way down to where you are today. So you're from Minnesota. Talk about growing up there and how'd you start playing lacrosse and falling in love with the sport.
Yeah, so in Minnesota, as you probably know, it's all about hockey here. So I played hockey since I was 6 all the way up until this year. And it's kind of different for lacrosse here, obviously, because like the first chance I could play lacrosse was in 4th grade. So that's when I started. But I really got into it because my mom played in college. She played at Princeton and my sister played in college, so they were really into it. And my sister's 8 years older than me, so she was kind of like in starting high school lacrosse, so that was a big inspiration to me. So that's kind of how I got into it. My mom was my youth and club coach. So that really helped me get into it. And yeah, being from Minnesota is definitely unique. But it's been growing. The sport has been growing a lot recently. Um, there are a lot of great teams here now. When my sister played, it was like just her team and another team. It was Blake and Eden Prairie, and they would just like kind of switch off winning state every year. But now that's definitely not the case. There's a lot of other teams, so that's really fun. Um, yeah, so I got to watch her win the state championship like 3 times. So that definitely kind of got me into lacrosse.
That's awesome. I feel like a lot of hockey players play lacrosse
Oh yeah,
when they're not in
totally.
season. So I feel I'm surprised it's not as popular in Minnesota as it could
I
be.
know. Yeah. Yeah, it's getting there.
Now, growing up, who are some of your favorite players and teams that you like to watch?
In middle school, I guess like end of middle school, start of high school, I was like obsessed with Charlotte North, which is kind of a basic answer, but I loved watching her play. I remember like when she first kind of came on, I was like telling my teammates about like this insane player, and they were like, "Who is that?" And I was like, "Oh, you'll see, obviously." I also love like from a midfielder's perspective, I love Ali Mastriani. She's really fun to watch. So yeah, those are my fave players.
That's awesome. Do you ever brag to people that you knew about Charlotte North before she became like super big in lacrosse?
Yes, definitely. I like to say that I was kind of the reason. Just kidding. But yeah.
That's awesome. Well, you mentioned you have a lot of family in lacrosse. You have an older sister Annie who played for Denver and Trinity College. So my question to you is, what's it like being the youngest sibling, and how has your older sister helped you in your lacrosse career? Obviously, you mentioned how you looked up to her growing up, but now, how does she sort of help you out in your career? Does she give you sort of any advice, and does she watch your games and sort of talk to you about that and all that stuff?
Yeah, she definitely comes. She was actually just home for my graduation, but she definitely comes and watches my games, which is super fun. She actually lives in New York City, so hopefully she can come up for some of my games. But yeah, she's been a huge inspiration to me. She first started out playing D1 at Denver, but then she transferred to Trinity, so that was kind of one of my main reasons to go D3 because she just had a more positive experience with D3 kind of balancing lacrosse and school and life. So yeah, that was definitely a huge inspiration to me, and she's had a lot of impact on my lacrosse career.
Now, I do want to ask you about your mother because you mentioned that she also played lacrosse for Princeton. What's it like? What's she like as a mom and as a lacrosse coach? And how do you sort of, what's your relationship like? And how has she sort of helped you out in your career as well?
Yeah, it's interesting. She's only my club coach, so not my high school coach, which is kind of nice because high school is more like every day. But yeah, she's kind of always been my coach, so it's been like it's definitely more normal now. But starting out, it was kind of harder to like separate it, you know? I would be like, "Mom, what's for dinner?" like at practice, which obviously can't do that. Um, yeah, it was hard, but we've, you know, grown together. So that's been fun.
And now she gets to watch you for the rest of the next 4 years, which is probably cool
Yep.
for her.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you mentioned this as well, but talk a little bit about your club lacrosse experience and what that's been like for you, because obviously you haven't just played at Blake, you've played club as well. So I'm just curious what that's been like for you and sort of how it's helped improve your game throughout your time in high school.
Yeah. So I started playing club for Team Minnesota in 5th grade. And at that time I was playing up with like freshmen for a little bit. And then I played for Team Minnesota for like 3 years. And then I moved to Pipeline, which is who I play for now. And um that was super fun because I got to play with like really great players in my grade, like the top 24s in my grade. So that was super fun. But yeah, my club experience has been fun. I'm glad to be at Pipeline now. Um, yeah.
And how do you think your high school and club experiences has helped prepare you for college with William and Smith?
I think moving to Pipeline really helped me because I got to play with a bunch of different players. Like we don't just practice with our team. So I get to play with a lot of different players, lots of different skills. So that's been super fun. And the tempo of practices is super upbeat and fast and intense. So that's been fun to kind of adjust my like the pace of the game. And then all again getting to play with some of the best players in the state has been super fun.
Now, you've obviously had a lot of success throughout your time with Blake. So my question is, what do you think has been the biggest improvement you've made to your game this past season as a senior that you think is going to help you make the next step for this upcoming season?
I think like my mental game, I've improved a lot. I used to really get in my head like when I would like miss a shot or something. And I think I've worked hard to improve that to kind of think about the next play instead of what just happened, because obviously that doesn't do anything. Um, and then also we had like a pretty tough schedule this year. I think we were like 8-7, so we had our fair share of losses and wins. So that's been kind of tough to lead the team um to kind of get back to playing our game as a captain. Um, so yeah, that's been kind of the hardest thing, but I think I've improved that this year, definitely.
Yeah, maybe it's just me. I was just sort of thinking about this, but I feel like when a game ends, you should just not think about the game and just sort of not let it ruin your day or in life. I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of athletes let a performance or a game sort of ruin their day and lives, and I don't understand why fans get so upset when like a professional athlete is like doing something outside the field or off
Yeah.
the rink.
Yeah, that
It's
is
just
true.
like I feel like it's important to sort of separate the game between your personal life. So I think that's a good sort of mindset to have.
Yeah. That's definitely been hard for me, but I've been
Hmm.
working on it.
That's good. That's good. Well, I do want to ask you about your hockey career a little bit. So you said you did play hockey for Blake as well. You were a defender. What was that experience like for you, and how do you think it sort of helped you in lacrosse?
Yeah, I think hockey and lacrosse are very similar. Like skating and running kind of help each other. So I definitely think, like you said, a lot of hockey players play lacrosse and vice versa. So I think that definitely helped me, kind of the cross training. I played for Blake for 1 year and then I moved to playing for Minnetonka 19U, which is kind of like junior gold, if you've heard of that, but for girls. And we won state 2 years in a row, so that was super fun. So getting to play hockey, the sport that I've played forever, while also being able to play lacrosse was super fun. So yeah, I've had a great hockey career and experience.
Yeah. Obviously, Minnesota is known as the state of hockey. So what's it sort of
Yeah.
like being a part of that culture? Did you have the chance to play at the XL Energy Center for a state championship game?
No, for 19U, we actually our last year was at just Minnetonka ice rink. But yeah, we don't get to play at the X, but I've been to the X many, many times. I'm a big Wild fan.
Hmm.
And yeah, growing up in Minnesota, it's been crazy because this is like the East Coast for lacrosse. So it's like everyone is going to like the number one college hockey school, which is just so crazy because I like know a bunch of people that are going to like one of the top 10 hockey schools, which is crazy, but that's just kind of the normal thing for Minnesota, which is weird. But yeah, it's really cool because everyone's really into hockey.
That's awesome. And I know the ho all hockey hair team is big out there.
Oh
Do
yeah.
you think
Yeah.
did you try that at all? And if so, do you think you had the best hair on your 19U team or no?
Probably not. I'm just, blonde, long hair, nothing really too interesting. But yeah, I love the all hockey hair team. It's so cool.
Hmm.
And people really go all out.
Oh yeah. I don't know if I could buzz my hair.
I know.
I feel like I would dye it and then try to wash it off or something like that. That's like the most crazy thing I would do with it.
Yeah, the worst is when people like do crazy things with their hair and then they like lose their first game or something. And then it's like, wow, you really did that for like just
Oh
a
yeah.
loss, which is kind of sad.
Well, I saw some kid do like a cheetah print on his hair. I don't know if you saw
Yeah.
that was
Yeah,
probably
I
the
saw
craziest
that.
one I saw
Yeah.
this past year.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
That's awesome though. That's really cool that you get to know like high-end college hockey players. Do you know
Yeah,
any
it's
of them
really
that could
cool.
get drafted in the draft in a few weeks?
Yeah, actually, a girl that used to go to Blake that I think she played for Minnesota for like 5 years. She actually was just drafted because there's a new like
Oh,
PWHL.
that's awesome.
Yeah. So that's super cool. She used to go to Blake. Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, That's really awesome. I'm a big hockey fan, so I obviously have to take some time out of a lacrosse podcast
Yeah,
to
for
talk a little bit
sure.
about that sport. But let's get back to your lacrosse career now, because I do want to ask you about your recruiting process. So what was your recruiting process like with William Smith? Obviously, you said because of your relationship with your sister, you were really considering more of a D3 school experience than maybe a Division One. So what made you want to go to William Smith and versus other schools I guess you might have looked at during your recruiting process?
Yeah, I was really looking for a school that had a chance to win a national championship and could, be very successful. And then also during my visit, it was just like really special, unlike any other visit I'd been on. Like I got to go to a class, I got to meet the team, I got to go to a practice, go to a game, talk to a couple teachers. So that was really like I felt very important. So that was kind of a big reason I felt like I really got to see the school. And I love the coaching staff. Coach Phillips and Coach Magro are really awesome coaches, and they develop their players a lot, which is something I'm definitely looking for. And the girls love them and love each other. And that was a big thing I was looking for, the culture of the team.
Now you guys get to play in the Liberty League, which is one of the top conferences in Division III women's lacrosse. So, from your perspective, what makes that league different from other conferences in college lacrosse playing style wise, from your perspective?
Yeah, for a lot of years, William Smith, I felt like just like kind of dominated it. I think it was like 7-time champion or something like that. But this year, Ithaca beat William Smith like twice. So I'm excited that it's kind of getting more competitive. But obviously, I am excited to be a part of getting William Smith back on track, Liberty League wise. So yeah, I'm excited to play in the Liberty League.
Yeah. How much William Smith lacrosse did you watch this past year? And have you had the chance to meet any of your future teammates? I know you mentioned you met some of the team, but I'm curious if you met any other of the freshmen that you're going to be in any going to be playing with as well.
Yeah, I watched all of the games I could. It was really fun to watch all of them, and players that I'll get to play with. I haven't met any of the girls that are going to be in my class, but like you said, I've met some of the girls that are currently on the team, but we have like a group chat. I Snapchat a lot of them, so yeah.
That's awesome. Trying to build those relationships already
Yeah.
important. Now, what do you think is going to be sort of the biggest adjustment you're going to have to make to college lacrosse?
I definitely think the rules, there are a lot of different rules in college than high school, which I think is kind of weird, but like the green cards will be a big thing because now in high school it's just kind of like you just get fouled in the midfield and you just keep running and keep going like nothing even happened. But now I guess you have to stop, you get a green card, all that stuff. So that's definitely going to be a big adjustment. And I think the biggest thing for me.
Oh yeah, but luckily you have fall ball to sort of get used to,
Yeah,
I think,
true.
which is going to be important. So now, when you think about playing for William Smith next season, what are you most excited about? Is there like a particular game you're looking forward to, or is there like what's like the most thing you're looking forward to the most, I guess, when you think about college lacrosse next year?
I definitely think just playing at a higher level in general and championship weekend would be super, super fun. And being able to play for a chance to win the national championship is definitely something I'm looking forward to the most.
And do you have any goals and expectations with William Smith next season from a team perspective and then also from an individual perspective as well?
Well, obviously, I think being able to win a national championship would be insane. And for me personally, I would love to contribute and be a part of that.
Nice. Well, let's transition now and go to a segment I like to call the non-lacrosse segment, where I ask you some non-lacrosse questions to get to know you a little bit more off the field. So, first one is baseball players are known to have a walk-up song before each at bat. So, my question is, if lacrosse had walk-up music, what would your song be?
My kind of pump up song is Heaven Takes You Home by Swedish House Mafia. That
Hmm.
kind of gets me going. So I think that would be my walk up song.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I don't know what I would pick. Probably some like Kendrick Lamar song or something like that.
Yeah.
Usually, I'm
Yeah.
a more of a hip hop fan when it comes to pump up music, so I would go with that. Or like a good throwback. Like I saw
Yeah,
some
that's
of
good
the
too.
Orioles do "Sweet Escape" by Gwen
Oh
Stefani.
yeah.
That's his
Yeah.
walk-up song,
That's
which
a
I
good
really
one.
like. Or like "Wake Me Up Before I Go Go" by
Yeah.
Wham. Like one of those sort of like
Yeah,
classic
yeah, yeah.
songs. So that's what I would go with. Now, next question is, what is your most embarrassing lacrosse moment?
I wouldn't say I had like a specific like super embarrassing moment, but this year since I broke my thumb, I had to play with like this big blue thing on my hand, which was really ugly. So I would say that's probably pretty embarrassing for me.
I don't feel like that's embarrassing. I feel like that's awesome. It makes you seem super tough. Especially, I feel like when you see those photos that come out with the thing with the
Yeah.
thumb, it makes you look more badass. So I feel like I feel like for me, that's not embarrassing. It's the opposite.
Yeah.
Now, what is one place you would love to travel to one day?
I've already been to Italy, but I would say go back and kind of explore more of that area. I think that'd be super cool. Try some more food.
Yeah,
So I would say Italy.
for me, Canada. I want to see like
Oh yeah, I haven't been to
Toronto. That
Canada
looks like a
either.
lot of fun. So that's where I
Yeah.
would want to go. Now, what is the most interesting thing you've read or seen this week?
Um, my my high school's baseball team made it to state this week, or I guess it was last week, but their state game is this week, and I was at the game and it was like the first time in like 10 years or something. So that was really cool and fun to be a part of.
That's awesome. Well, shout out to Blake Baseball for getting it
Yes.
done this week. I think for me, honestly, you probably know this too, as I was reading this story from the PWHL Minnesota team that their GM suddenly like got fired and now there's like this weird like power struggle going on. I just thought it was interesting, sort of seeing
Yeah.
all that drama going on. But it was
Yeah.
cool seeing the draft. A lot of good players got picked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Looking forward
Super
to
fun.
next season. Now, two more non-lacrosse questions. One is if you could have lunch with anybody in the world, who would it be and why?
Oh, I think it would be Noah Khan, if you've heard of him. He's a singer. I just went to his concert on Saturday, and he seems like a cool guy to hang out with. So I think it would be Noah Khan.
That's awesome. I guess for me, probably like Tom Brady. I just like his underdog
Yeah.
story and sort of how he made it to where he is today. Honorable mention though, Paul Maurice, the head coach of the Panthers. I don't
Oh
know
yeah.
why. I don't know if you've seen some of his press conferences, but he just seems like a funny guy. So I feel like that would be an interesting conversation with him.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, lastly, last non-lacrosse question. If you could appear in one movie or TV show, which one would you choose?
Could I switch it to a podcast?
You can do a podcast, yes.
I love Crime Junkies. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's like a true crime podcast. So
Hmm.
I think it would be super fun to be a co-host on that.
Yeah, I feel like you would want to be a co-host, not the
Yeah,
subject of
not
the
yeah,
podcast.
not part of the story.
Well, hopefully we're number two outside of that one. So,
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Checking it
um,
off the bucket list.
I would say for me, for I guess movie, probably Cars. I'd love to voice a
Oh
character in
yeah.
that. I love that movie. And then like a TV show, probably like I don't know, Parks and Recreation. I really like that show, so it'd be fun to play like a dumb guest character for
Yeah,
one
that'd
episode.
be fun.
So that's what I would go with.
Yeah.
Now let's get back to some lacrosse questions now. First one is what advice would you give younger players trying to pursue a career in college lacrosse like yourself?
I think it would definitely be to find a program that has everything you want. Doesn't matter what division. Um, and a school that you would go to if you didn't have lacrosse. I think that's kind of the most important thing to make sure you're happy. Also just working really hard outside of practice. You can go to as many practices as you want, but the way to kind of get ahead of everyone else and set yourself apart is to do the work outside of practice. So I think that's kind of my biggest thing.
Now, what should be done to help grow women's lacrosse from your perspective?
I definitely think TV times, like just from the D1 championship, it was at like a Thursday. It was on a Thursday at like noon or something, and it was just kind of disappointing because not many people can go to the games or even watch them because they're in school or at work or whatever. So I think that's my biggest thing. I also think that the D3 championship and D1 and men's and women's should be at the same place. And maybe it could be like a week instead of just a weekend so that people can just go to one place and watch all the games. So yeah, that would be my tip for growing the game.
Yeah, I think the Division One lacrosse is going to be at Gillette Stadium for both men's and women's next season. So
Good,
that should be
good.
interesting. I don't know, where do they play the D3? Is it like it's usually like at another school, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, yeah. The past like 10 years or something, it's been at Roanoke College, which is in like Virginia,
Hmm.
and it's kind of like hard to get to.
Yeah,
So just maybe I'm asking for too much to be at Gillette Stadium, but maybe just like a more central location.
yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's reasonable, somewhere like
Yeah.
where everyone can get to. It's the
Yeah.
problem. I feel like for me it's staggered start times. I think that sort of
Yeah.
goes with like for the men's tournament, like each the start time staggered. So like when you watch on TV, you can pretty much watch whatever game. You can watch as many
Yeah.
games as you want, but for all the women's games, they all start at the same time.
I know.
So it's like
Yeah. It's
you
the
have to sort
worst.
of flip through each game. You can't really watch it
Yeah.
all at once, which is pretty disappointing. So I feel like staggered start times would be great. But
Yeah.
I do agree with you that they should find a way to put the times at a better time. But I do like how they put it on ESPN because I know other
Yeah. Me
women's
too.
sports don't get that.
Yeah.
I think it's important because the championship game few weeks ago was incredible. It was one of the best lacrosse games I've ever
Yeah.
seen, and I was very glad it was on ESPN. So maybe new fans started to enjoy the sport that way. So I definitely think
Yeah.
there's some tweaks they can make, but I also think there's some things that they figured out, and hopefully they can
Yeah. I
with as
agree.
well.
Yeah. They're halfway there.
Yeah, just a few more steps. So
Yeah.
now, do you have any shout outs you want to give to any of your future teammates, former teammates, and who should we have on the podcast next?
I'd like to give a big shout out to my high school team this year. BGL, we call ourselves, Blake Girls Lacrosse, and my high school coach, Lauren Green. And I think next you should have Belle Smith.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Cynthia, for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate your time. It was great getting the chance to meet you, and I really enjoyed our conversation today. I think you're a great player. I think you're an even better person, and I'm super excited to see you play with William and Smith next season as well. So, best of luck for the next season, but also have a great off season and summer as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.